What is up, guys? Thank you for tuning in to the second episode of People's Podcast. I have myself, Isaac, and Ben here. You guys want to say what's up?
Yo, it's Isaac.
Hello.
All right. We got some good topics. We actually have a lot of topics. So we want to thank you guys so much for that. We have some really good topics, actually. But first, we're going to start off on a recap. We decided we're going to constantly be updating you guys on kind of the statistics and what's going on with the coronavirus. So Isaac's going to take that. Isaac, you want to hit him with the facts?
Yes. So coronavirus. I'm gonna start with the Nebraska situation, and then I'm gonna move on to the national situation because the three of us are located in Nebraska, as most of our viewers know that. And it looks like in the Nebraska information, there's really not a whole lot other than the fact that in the last week our cases have spiked. In Grand Island alone, we went from having, I think it was 17 cases last week to over 100 today. And it is quickly becoming a bad thing in a really bad way in Nebraska. It looks like both Hall County and Douglas County are the two heaviest infected zones, with 215 cases in Douglas County, which is in Omaha, and 118 in Hall County. Then the situation in the United States is also reaching the peak. New York is actually receding in the number of cases. And I think that we're going to see a very, very interesting decline because it's going to work its way from east to west coast of this decrease. We've reached 34,000 cases in the United States as a whole, with, it looks like, no, not 34,000 cases. That's new cases today.
I was about to say, it's a little...
Yeah, no. We've had 159,000 confirmed cases in New York alone.
In New York alone, yes. New York is horrible.
We've had 500,000 cases total. But our death rate is par for the course with the national average of 1%.
Thank you for that follow-up.
And I think that's coming from
Yes. And just our medical system is working their asses off. They're all doing a great job right now.
Definitely, yeah. All right. Well, before we get started into our first topic for today, I wanted to say, if you guys have any topics you guys want us to talk about, leave them in the comments, and we will talk about them in either this stream or if not, the next stream. So, and we also, another thing is, we want you guys to be talking, not with us and with each other in the comments, because we're here to create a community. It's not just going to be us talking; it's going to be you guys talking too. So, let's get started, I guess. So the first topic comes from the homie Josh. So it's Josh Grossner, and he wants to know: will the NFL and college football start their season on time with no fan restrictions? Will it be delayed? Will it just be televised? So, honestly, by the way we're looking right now, they won't even have it. Oh wow, we're getting a lot of follows.
Thank you, guys.
But we won't have it. It looks, if it's still at the same rate by that time, by football season, we're not. They're going to cancel it because just on the field alone, you already have 22 guys. That's not counting coaches. That's not counting backup. That's not counting about all the behind the scenes. In an actual game, there's hundreds of people that come into play there. And if it's like how it is right now, they can't take that risk on having that many people in a group, even if they just televise it. So I think if we are how we are right now, they're going to cancel the football season, sadly.
I don't think that it's still going to be bad by the time football rolls around. The actual season, at least. Preseason maybe will still be in the middle of this. I really think it'll be all the way done by then, but I'm also not like an expert, so.
Definitely.
That's pretty much all I gotta say about that one.
Yeah. Isaac, you got anything about that?
I would say that I I think that it's going to be a higher risk. I think that certain regions may be experiencing fan restrictions, but I don't know if it's going to be an entire league thing. I think that in your extremely populous regions like your New Yorks, your LAs, places like that, there will be a lot higher of a need for social distancing and all of that structure for fan restrictions. But I think in your places like you're looking at Kansas City, Denver, smaller, still lawful cities, but smaller cities, you won't have as much of a concern with it because, as it's been shown, those places, while they're still showing significant numbers, they're not showing anywhere near as much as those massive metropolitan areas.
Definitely.
Well, one thing I'm noticing is we are having a lot of interruption issues, so I'm really sorry about that, guys. I do not know what's going on and why it's doing this. But we will try to get through this. Hopefully it'll fix itself. If not, we'll try to do something. So there's that. Do you guys think we hit that topic then?
Yeah. All right. I'll read off the next one. So we've got from Jordan Milner. What impact does social media have on society? And I don't know quite what part of society she's trying to say here. It's probably the youth. So, what impact does social media have on society? Well, I think it has simultaneously brought people together and pushed people apart immensely. Because, I mean, before social media, it's like, oh yeah, all the boomers back in my day, you know, we just went outside and we talked to our friends, and I'm like, we all still do that, just kind of less. It's addicting. I personally don't really use like Instagram that much or anything like that, just because I just don't see the need for it. But effect on society as a whole, I don't think it changes that much. Besides, it's good right now because otherwise we won't be communicating with anybody. I mean, social media is one of the reasons we can have school right now. So that's all I gotta say on that one.
No, for sure. I was actually doing a research paper on how meme culture has affected modern day society, and there's actually a lot behind it. I mean, you can look into teaching. There's a lot into politics, even. I mean, recently you saw Michael Bloomberg using memes to kind of get to the younger voters, and I mean, I don't know. There's a lot behind it, and I mean, social media today is just everything. Our culture is adapting towards it, and because of it, I mean, it's changed the world. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's all I had.
That's true.
Yeah,
I agree. I think that older generations put too much pressure on the younger generation in the sense that they think that, well, social media is strange. It is nothing like what any generation before ours has had. It enables people to live 2-3 lives sometimes, because they can live the Instagram life, they can live the Snapchat life, and they can live the actual in-person life. And I think that those, like, where the risk comes is when people start to live for their social media. I think that depending upon who it is, it can be both a terrible thing, but also a great thing. I think that social media as a whole is a good thing. It keeps people connected when they need to be apart, like right now.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at the end. It can be bad for when we're actually supposed to be connecting with each other in real life, because everyone's glued to their phones in restaurants and stuff, not talking to each other. But right now, it's vital to have it during these times, really. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
definitely. Yeah. All right.
Okay. Now we're getting on to the really good stuff. We've got, last time we had Biden versus Bernie. We were talking about that. A couple days ago, Bernie dropped out of the race. So now no more communists are going to be in here. We've just got Biden and Trump. So I'm obviously pretty pro Trump. I've got the flag in the back, but we're all going to try to give our unbiased pros and cons about each candidate.
Definitely.
So pros about Biden. I mean, he's been in the game for a while. Obviously, he knows his way in and out of Washington. He is not a communist, which is awesome. But he also is going to be appropriating a lot of Bernie's policies to try to win his base over, which I don't think is going to happen. That's one of his cons, is that it's going to be hard for him to unify the Democratic Party. There are tons of Bernie supporters who are never anybody else. So that's interesting. Trump pros, I'd say. So we were talking about Biden versus Trump, pros and cons. I just got done with my whole rambling. So Isaac or Matt, you guys can take that one away.
Definitely. Okay. So I agree. Trump is kind of that badass asshole that says what he wants when he wants. And I definitely think that is a good thing for especially a time like this. And it's going to make these next elections really funny. I mean, that's a con between both of them, is that these next elections are going to be considered a joke, like really badly, because you have Joe Biden, who pretty much has dementia, and Trump, who says whatever he wants. So, I mean, we can all see how this is going to play out. And in my opinion, the Democrats made a really bad mistake bringing this guy, like Joe Biden, as the one. I mean, I know Bernie Sanders, he's just not campaigning anymore. He's still on the ballot, that's for sure. But
the thing about Bernie dropping but staying on all the ballots is he's going to try to get as many delegates as possible to kind of corner Biden and be like, okay, well, you know, look, I've got all this amount of the Democratic Party, and we want these things done. So if you become president, we're going to hold you to this. At the Democratic convention, he's gonna try to get Biden to adopt a lot of his policies. So Biden really, he's not speaking for himself at all at that point. I mean, his campaign is basically speaking for him right now. And then at the convention, when Bernie kind of tries to force all these policies down his throat, then he's not speaking for himself at all. He's just a puppet president, really, because he doesn't know what's going on anymore. So,
and I think that's why I think that's another con, is that he's just going to listen to what the Democrats want, and that's why the Democrats want him, because he's just going to do whatever they say. And who will Biden? And that's another con, and that's the thing about Trump, is Trump won't do that. Trump's gonna do what he wants. He's gonna stick to what he wants. Like you said, is that it definitely Rod Foley. It definitely is not Sanders. Who is his running mate? Right now, I think because Sanders dropped out, but they're who's all on the ballot still? It's Bernie is still on the ballot. Joe Biden, clearly he's gonna have the Democratic spot.
It's just Bernie and Biden for Democrats.
There's other people that are still on the ballot. They're just not campaigning anymore. I think Bloomberg still is.
I don't think he is. Well, maybe.
So technically you have it looks like Elizabeth Warren, Bloomberg, and Pete Buttigieg are still technically all on, as well as Bernie, are still on the ballot. But Bernie and Biden are the only real contenders right now.
Yes, yeah.
And Bernie won't win it. It's basically set in stone at this point, because Warren prevented him from getting delegates at the beginning on Super Tuesday. He could have won all those states, and Warren just decided to stay in the race even though she had no chance, and she took all of his votes away. So
yeah, and I mean, if you ever look at presidential elections, what happens in these presidential elections is when you have a split vote like this. So Trump, he doesn't have a running mate. It's Trump by himself, pretty much Republican Party. He's going to get all the Republican votes. But when you're splitting with Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, when you're splitting those votes, that's how you get a division in the Democratic Party or just any party when it's like that. And if you look through history, those parties tend to lose pretty badly because it's a split vote. So they just don't get all the votes that they'd like to. Because Bernie Sanders is going to get the radical leftist votes, clearly, and the Joe Biden's just going to get kind of the neutral left. So
Yeah.
while Trump is over here getting the radical left, the radical rights and the neutral rights, and some even just neutral. So
Yeah, I don't think Bernie will split off and do his own campaign after the primaries are over, though. So the split vote wouldn't happen.
no.
They're not going to take
we
that
will
risk.
be. Jake, I know I will be, and I think Matt will be at the stadium tonight.
I might go to the stadium tonight. I don't know yet because I don't know if I really want to go out there and risk getting the coronavirus,
Yeah,
little
I
scary.
wouldn't do it.
Especially with all those people there. Because a lot of people are going to be there.
That's
Yeah.
true.
All right. Anything else? Any other kind of pros and cons about Biden or Trump? Anything else we want to say about it?
I think that's pretty good.
Alrighty.
All right.
So the next thing we're going to hit is we're going to talk about. So last time we talked about the Tiger King, and I mean, I don't know about Isaac, but I know me and Ben watched the show, so we were going to kind of recap that just a little bit.
Yes.
So
I watched the first episode and was done. It's just too crazy.
Dude, the first episode is nothing. I'm not even done.
Yeah.
I'm on episode 6 out of 7 or something.
Yeah.
And oh my God, that show is insane.
It really is.
And it's just, there's nothing held back. It's just completely raw. I love that.
Mm-hmm. I like the fact that there's a build up with it. When you're watching it, it takes you from when you first start, it's like kind of this innocent guy who's all about conservation, all about his tigers, and he gets into political game. He gets into all these different types of things that end up leading to him being in jail today, and it's just insane. I mean, and I like the fact that you can see that build up and you can see what happens and what brought him to that point.
You never know what's going to happen the next 3 minutes of the show.
Yeah.
There's always something new.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like he's got this hit out on the animal rights lady, and the animal rights lady has been suing him for all of his money, and so he had this guy invest, but this guy took over his zoo and he's against him. It's just like this interconnected battle between all of them, and they're all in the wrong. Nobody's right on that show.
Yeah.
They're all bad people, every single one of them.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
And then you get embezzlement, like you get all the embezzlement things that the guy did, where he's taking the guy's money and putting it into his own campaign from money from the park because he wants to run for. First, he decided he wanted to run for president, and then he decided he wanted to run for governor.
19% of the vote for governor. That's not bad.
That isn't bad. He got third place
for who he is. And
definitely,
Joe
not.
Exotic,
And being
that
under a
guy's
Libertarian
just
Party, but I guess in Oklahoma that's pretty common.
My man.
Yeah, my man. I'd vote for him.
All right. Anything else about the show? I honestly would recommend. I would recommend the show. But talking about the show, we actually did get a pretty funny topic about it. So someone asked, who would win in a cage match between Joe Exotic and Carol Baskin? So
ooh, just them two.
That'd be easy, dude. Joe Exotic will whoop her ass.
Joe, he'd use his little cane thing and just start whacking her.
He'd whoop her.
He'd whoop her ass. He would.
The dude has so much hate for that lady. He would not take it easy. That dude would go
He would
off.
stop at nothing to end.
I think Carol Baskin would like. While she may not have the physical leg up, she'd take the psychological route, and she'd like make this guy hate his everything. He would take himself and like he'd turn himself inside out because he hates everything so much that she would get him to off himself
in the cage.
In the cage.
So you think Carol Baskin would win?
Yes,
dude, you're insane.
She's gonna outwit him in some.
Dude, have you not seen what Joe Exotic looks like? The dude's insane.
Yes, I have. I watched one episode.
He put a hit out on her. He was gonna kill her.
Yeah, he just had one of his employees like, "Oh, hey, you want to kill this girl?" And he's like, "Yeah, I guess." And then they just go do it. But he never actually ends up like shooting at her. But
And he never even gave money, so therefore it wasn't technically proven that he was going to go through with it. He was just talk at that moment.
Mhm.
So in my opinion, I think we should free Joe Exotic. But
free Joe.
I mean, what the biggest charges they got him on was animal cruelty because he euthanized 5 tigers. I mean, the method of use like that he used wasn't the best, where he just shot them. There's probably better ways to do it, but in the end, you're killing it. Either it's a painless death, you shoot it right in the head. So
yeah, exactly.
But
not exactly the best thing in the world, but he does not deserve to be serving the time he's serving.
22 years. That's the time he's serving.
Yeah,
but
for the charge that he got,
good time on it.
Yeah.
So a day in his day's good time.
Yeah,
and so he'll probably get out in like 11.
All right, but I'm saying Joe Exotic got it easily. That dude would kill Carol Baskin.
He would.
I mean, he's got a messed up leg, but I don't think that'd stop him. I think that would actually drive him more. He'd beat her down with his little cast that his brace he has on his leg. He'd take it off and beat her with it.
Yes.
Dude's
and he's
insane.
always got a gun on him right back here too. So who's to say? I mean, are we giving them no equipment or what? Because he'd walk into the cage with that and just right there.
Oh, dead.
I mean, it's kind of going off topic, but right here I see something that someone's talking about the stadium thing today, and they're saying we're meeting at the front half of the working lot where we tailgate for games. How are we going to be playing games when we're supposed to be social distancing? That's probably the reason why I'm not going to go. Is that reason right
No,
there?
they're saying like that's the location where we tailgate, like pre-game for like football games.
Oh, okay. I misread that completely. All right, I got you. All right, perfect. I got a little worried there. I'm like, we're not supposed to be kind of getting those big groups. So
yeah.
I don't think that the school would allow this.
Yeah,
right.
for real.
All right, next one.
Isaac, you want to read off the next one?
Which one?
I've got the next one. Okay.
Okay.
We've got from Ava Labrie. What are your thoughts on legalizing psychedelics and marijuana? I have very, very strong opinions on this one. I think all psychedelics, all marijuana, completely legal because the government spends so much money on the war on drugs, so much money, that we could be getting in taxes from selling them legally. And do you know how much safer it would be if they were legal? The reason that everyone thinks they're dangerous is because it's an illegal operation. If it wasn't an illegal operation, it would be so much safer. Like places where it is legal in the US, in those states, it's perfectly fine. Marijuana is completely accepted. It's the same thing as alcohol, I guess, but
it's cleaning up the system.
One thing I will say because Colorado, they legalized marijuana, and so there's a thing that goes on around there. I mean, because a lot of people are kind of going back on it, but the only reason why is because the government lied to them, and they're not holding up on their deal. So the government told them that the tax money is going to be going to the school system. Well, from last time I heard, they didn't put a single dime into the school system. If they did, it was a very little amount to the school system of the actual taxes they got back.
Yeah.
And people were not very happy with it. But all in all, like especially when you're in a state like Nebraska, who's a welfare state, and you're already struggling economically, and we have such good agriculture here, there's no reason why we shouldn't allow it. I mean, I think we already allow like growing of it here, but we don't allow commercial or do we even allow medical use here?
We do not allow medical use.
We don't have medical now.
I mean, there's so many opportunities of revenue that we could be bringing into our economy that can go into our school systems and our roads and just our towns and our entire state.
As opposed to, let's go imprison this person because they smoked one time.
Definitely. And I mean, at that point, that's a lot more room in the prison systems that you can have for people that are committing actual crimes than just smoking some pot. Like, if you're just smoking some pot, you do you. I don't feel that we should get after people because they want to smoke some pot.
I agree.
It's not hurting anybody else.
And that is the stance I would take. I personally don't use. I would consider it if it was legal. And that's something that, and obviously that would be when I reach the legal age and everything like that. I think that it would be something that at the current moment, I think it should be something that's legalized because all it does is clean up the system, like Ben had said, and it completely frees up a large portion of not only the prison systems, but the probation systems and things like that. Because there are so many people that are serving a year, 2, 3 years of probation for a drug-related offense that would have been completely absolved and wouldn't be an issue had that drug been legal. Like, it's not like they had like a DUI or an MIP or something like that, where they were putting themselves in a dangerous situation.
Themselves and other people.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just using the drug.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And I should say I don't agree with legalizing all drugs like heroin and cocaine and meth. I agree. Stuff like horse tranquilizer.
But I mean, if we're going to legalize marijuana, then I mean, we've tried it before, but why don't we legalize alcohol? If we're going to be looking death-wise, alcohol has way more deaths than marijuana. I mean, you could say, illegalize
alcohol is what you're saying, Matt, right?
Oh yeah, sorry, mixture of words. But alcohol has killed more people from alcohol poisoning, drunk drive, and it has way worse of an effect because it can it has more chance of harming the person that's doing it and other people around that person when they're intoxicated.
I think it's largely more addictive as well. I don't know, obviously, but
I mean, anything could be addictive,
right?
Like,
yeah.
So I don't think addiction should be a valid point to look at if we're trying to make something illegal. But I mean, I'm not saying that we should make alcohol illegal, but I'm saying if we are going to talk about these kind of things and what's bad, then alcohol is pretty bad if you're looking at that kind of in that way.
I agree.
Yeah. All right, that's pretty good on that one.
Yeah, definitely. All right.
Wait, you got the next one, Isaac?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. What is the best restaurant in Grand Island? This one was submitted by Papa Calvin.
Yes.
He is Ben's dad. He's such a great dude.
All right.
I think personally, my vote is going to go to probably somewhere like Red Lobster or Tacos Las Palmas. That's just, I like both pasta and fish, and I like Hispanic food.
See, I agree with the Tacos Las Palmas, but I don't think Red Lobster because, like, if we're talking about best restaurants, I don't think we can really give that title in GI to a franchise.
I was about to say that, like,
good point.
I would rather talk about like the local
Definitely,
restaurants.
because I mean, you have places like Tommy's, you have Tacos Las Palmas, La Mexicana. You have so many different good local restaurants. I think franchises are out of the picture at this point.
I agree. So then I think Tacos Las Palmas is my vote.
Yeah, I would say so too. I mean, I've heard a lot of good things also from Farmer's Daughter. I've never personally been there.
Yes,
if anybody in the comments has been to Farmer's Daughter, let us know how that is, because I've never been there, but I've heard that place is like
such
really
good food.
Oh yeah,
it is. It is high quality.
I agree.
You just have to get up early.
I mean, you have a lot of people that say Tommy's, but I don't know anymore since they're not open to like 24/7. If they were still open 24/7, they might have that title.
Tommy's would be at like 2 a.m.
Exactly.
No, but
or at like 9 in the morning.
Oh, 9 a.m. too. Like you either go to Tommy's really early and really late, and they don't have that anymore. It's not 24 hours.
Right.
All right. I want to hear what people's favorite restaurant in GI are in the comments, though. So let us know in the comments what your
please
favorite
let us know.
restaurant is. Let's get some conversation going up in the comments. And one thing, going back to the last topic, Rod Foley said, "What do you say about the number of crimes committed to support drug habits?" And I mean, if you were to legalize that, then I mean, it would kind of pretty much eliminate that, because they're not going to have to do these illegal things to support their habits, because it's going to kind of flood these kind of illegal things out of the town, out of the state. So
Well, you're not committing a crime to support the habit unless it's a crime to have the habit.
I agree.
Definitely.
I mean, because if something's legal, generally people who aren't messed up in the head in any way will do regular things like work to get their vice.
Right. And I think because something that to build on that, it's not super common in like the generation directly above ours, but in the generation before that, like functioning alcoholic was a really common thing. And you don't see people that are functioning alcoholics going out and murdering people or committing a crime to get said vice. I think that a few years down the line, when those things are legal, the crime rate because of drugs will decrease. Because if we're making things like, if we're just talking baseline on marijuana, if it's legal, there's not going to be any reason to rob somebody over it.
Exactly.
So I guess we might be mishearing this right now. So Rod Foley just said, I think he's talking about when you're addicted, you commit crimes to pay for your drugs. So he's talking about so like what if somebody doesn't have the money to pay these like taxes and stuff? So then like they're gonna go rob a store or something to get the money or to get that weed. So I guess
if you're addicted to anything and you're to the point of committing a crime, then you should be in jail. That doesn't have to just be for drugs. That like we said, that can be I don't have enough money for this pack of cigarettes, so I'm gonna rob this gas station.
Yeah.
It could be anything.
Yeah, I mean at that point it's like, okay, well you can't afford food, so you go to the store and you start stealing food. You still go to jail for that. So that's not gonna change. I mean, that doesn't just happen with drugs. That happens with any kind of thing that you feel is a necessity, or you feel is a necessity. Because when you're addicted, you feel that it's a necessity in life.
People will commit crimes to get what they want if they're in that mental state.
I also think that with things like that, like it will create a far better avenue of support in those scenarios of an addiction, because it'll be slightly destigmatized by having it be something that the entire public could use. Then when that person gets addicted to it, instead of it being something where like, oh, I have to go to rehab to deal with this because I'm a druggie, it's I need help handling and managing my addiction to said substance.
Well, yeah, they could be scared to come out and get help with an addiction because it is illegal, and they might be scared of catching charges on it.
Definitely, and I think I mean if you make these drugs legal, you'll have more people that are coming out. I mean you're still going to have the people that are addicted to the harder stuff like crack or cocaine scared to come out, because those I don't think should be legalized. But I mean, if someone wants to get help, they can get help now a lot easier without the fear of getting in trouble and getting charges. So that will also hopefully bring down the rate that people are doing these drugs.
I agree.
I think that if something's legal, then it's not cool anymore. Because I would say like if part of the appeal for some people that do those kind of drugs is like, oh yeah, I'm getting away with this.
Right.
It's like, oh, I'm being sneaky, like I'm doing this and I'm getting high because it's cool. I think that if it was legal, it'd be like, oh, this is normal. And people would just accept it. It's not going to be like this widespread thing that's so criminal. It'll just be regular. I don't think people would be committing a bunch of crimes about it if it was legal.
I think it also would eliminate a lot of youth in the legal system. I think that so many young kids get charged with a drug-related crime because they're 13, 14 years old and they're experimenting, and it ends poorly for them because they got caught and made a bad decision.
Not necessarily, because I mean 13, 14-year-old kids are not going to be able to have access to marijuana.
Of course.
Unless you
right.
guys think that it should be, I don't think it should be legalized for these young kids. I think
Not at all.
21. I'm pretty sure that's what they have in Colorado is 21.
Yeah.
I think the same age as alcohol would be a good age.
But
what Isaac's saying is that the kids who get it illegally just to try something.
Right. Well, and I think that the kids that get it illegally just to try something, it goes from instead of being a felony offense, which it often is, to being a misdemeanor of a minor in possession rather than being this minor possessing marijuana, which is a felony offense.
Yeah, kids. If you get caught with a small amount of alcohol, you really do get off pretty easy, and it's kind of like a slap to the wrist. Like, okay, you know,
don't do that.
There's your MIP. Don't do that.
Right.
So
Whereas
that's a lot more positive to do to a kid than we're putting you in federal prison because you had weed.
Or you're going to spend the rest of your high school career on probation. Or on juvenile diversion.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that decriminalizing it and making it so it's not treated as such a heinous act for a 13, 14, or 16, 17, 18-year-old kid to be trying and making a stupid decision, I think it makes it so that that kid doesn't have the remainder of their life potentially ruined by a criminal charge based off of a stupid decision that then it teaches them like, hey, drugs are bad. Not teaching them, wow, I screwed up. I'm just going to continue down this road.
Yeah. I mean, I guess to wrap it up, it won't be such a, okay, I went to prison or I was on probation for smoking and it follows you for the rest of your life.
Right.
That type of thing should not be something that follows you for the rest of your life.
Because people make dumb choices.
Every single person on earth makes dumb choices. And that should not mean that you're in prison for 15 years for possessing 3 grams of marijuana. So
definitely. And I guess no, we'll just go on to the next topic. We'll bring this up a different time.
Yeah.
All right, I can do the next topic. So we have something from Ava. What do you consider real music? What defines music? Is it a melody or a beat, or what do we think defines music? So we're kind of hitting that pop culture region.
It's kind of the phrasing of it. It's supposed to mean like not really what genre, but at what point is it just sound?
Of course. I think I have an extremely musical background. Not to quantify that with anything, just because I enjoy music. I think that in order for it to be music, there has to be some of both a sense of rhythm and a sense of some sort of tonal change over time. I don't think that if you were to just have drums blasting with no other sound, no pitch, nothing, I think that while it could be considered music, I think it is less music. I think that is just sound. I think the same thing happens with if you're just playing, like if a little kid goes and slams on a piano and just plays a whole bunch of nothing. I don't think that's considered music either. I think that it's a good balance of both.
It's like, what's the difference between having a drum kit and having pots and pans?
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
I mean, because if what you're saying, I mean, then you at these football games when you got Carter Morrow out there going ham on those drums, does that just noise to you? No, I think that's music.
Because
he goes ham on those. He's beast.
There is that sense of rhythm, and it also, I think, to add to it, actually, it depends on the style you're going for and the venue. Because if I were to just go slam on stuff in my house or slam on a drum kit in my house, I may not be making music because I could be lacking a rhythm. I could be lacking some hair to make it sound more musical.
Oh, I've got a good one. What defines music is intent to make music. because you could be just sitting there on a piano. Oh, I'm just doing all these random sounds, not intending to make music. Once you intend to make music and you put it out with an intention to sound a certain way, that's what music is.
I like that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair enough definition. So pretty much, you're saying as long as someone wants it to be music, it's music. It's like they say this is music. It's pretty much going from, if they say it's music, then it's music. Really.
Well, oftentimes music is referred to as a personal expression, so I do really like that stance on it.
It's a personal expression, and because there's a lot of people that don't consider a rap to be music, which doesn't make sense because these songs have rhythm and they have melody, and it's a show of lyricism. It's a mastery of the English language when you get really good at rapping,
or whatever language you speak.
Yeah, it's because people can do crazy stuff with that, but there's a lot of people that don't think like rap is music, or country isn't music because I don't like the genre, or just stupid stuff. Well, it's music to somebody.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, music is really whatever you take it to be. It's more it's more of something that you feel. It's not really a defined it doesn't have a real definition. It's really, if you I guess I see, if you feel it's music, then it's music. Like, hey, if I find that kid beating on some pots and pans over there, like if I think it's a good beat, if I think that's
it's a good beat.
Because I mean, you have these people, especially, they take like random sounds that you hear every single day and they make it into a beat. Then what would change that from being other kind of music? Like, it's just random sounds, but they're just putting it together to make it sound better.
It's arranged.
Yeah.
I think it's a personal expression of either an emotion or of like an experience.
Yeah, of course.
I wanna preface this next one because it's really we're getting into some really heavy stuff here, guys.
This one is important. This might be the most important question of the entire podcast so far.
Of the entire series ever. Who was the better 90s boy band, NSYNC or Backstreet Boys? And that is from Milner.
Jordan Hubbard. I said Jordan Milner earlier. We all call her Milner in my family and in my friend group. That's my stepmom. So Jordan Hubbard, but we wrote down Milner. That's why I said Milner earlier. So
Backstreet Boys. Okay. Backstreet Boys.
Backstreet Boys. Completely agree. Backstreet Boys. But we got to give it to NSYNC. They had Justin Timberlake.
I was just about to say that exact thing. I think that NSYNC is, like, if I was to pick between the two of who I wanted to listen to, I was going to pick NSYNC because I really like Justin Timberlake's voice.
I don't know about that.
See, but you got the classic Backstreet's Back.
That's true.
Like,
Backstreet
you can never go wrong.
Iconic songs.
Honestly, if that was the only song they ever put out, I would still say they were better. If I'm being real. I love that song so much, and everyone does.
Bye, bye, bye.
But who doesn't love Backstreet's Back?
Who doesn't like Bye, Bye, Bye by NSYNC?
My favorite song, though, Backstreet Boys, is I Want It That Way. God,
that's a good song.
That song just hits. And NSYNC, okay, yes, Bye, 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 whatever. That's iconic too, I guess. But that's only one thing.
You're right. I can't think of another song by NSYNC.
Like 7
I didn't even think about I Want It That Way.
Everyone's heard.
I didn't even think about that song. They have a lot. Yeah, they have a lot of hits, a lot more hits, and a lot more songs that are more familiar. So, like, if you hear Backstreet Boys, you have songs that pop in your head. But, like, pretty much everyone has those songs that pop in their head when they hear Backstreet Boys. But when you hear NSYNC, you don't have as many songs that would just pop in your head. Like, not as many people would know what.
But if you say Justin Timberlake,
yes, they can think about the person,
right?
Definitely, but music. If we're talking about music wise, I don't think that NSYNC can compare.
The thing is, though, is like Backstreet Boys. none of their members are still relevant. They're
That's
really
true.
not. They released an album in 2018 or something, or a song, or I don't know. They're just not relevant anymore. And NSYNC did have Justin Timberlake, who went on to become way bigger.
Yeah.
Backstreet Boys, who can you name? I couldn't name a single Backstreet Boy, even though I like them way better.
And actually, on this topic of Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, I think that another thing that proves Backstreet Boys' dominance, now that I really think about it, in the rap and hip hop community, Lil Uzi Vert, who is one of the most hyped rappers since 2016, he's been one of the most hyped artists, released a song that samples "I Want It That Way," and it takes the actual hook, and the record label managed to clear the sample, and it's one of his bigger songs that's out right now. It was one of the teasers to his album Eternal Atake, which he had been teasing since 2017. And I think that it just plays into that to show that that Backstreet Boys does have that dominance. That Way, which samples the track, is his third most popular song on Spotify. Seconded by a song called Myron and another song called P2, which are off of his new album Eternal Atake and Lil Uzi Vert versus the World 2.
That's a big ass album. There's like 40 songs on there.
Yeah, it's absolutely bonkers. Uzi was one of the most hyped artists, like I had said, and he released 2 albums back to back.
He's been on the top of every streaming service for like 4 years.
Yeah, ever since he released his breakthrough single "EXO Tour Life," and then followed it with his album "Love Is Rage 2."
That guy blew up.
He quickly became one of the mainstream and underground classics of the genre that is being characterized as trap.
So, final opinions though. NSYNC, Backstreet Boys.
Backstreet Boys.
I think we've come to a consensus. Backstreet Boys.
Backstreet Boys.
Definitely.
Although I'm never ever going to discount NSYNC, I still listen to NSYNC. NSYNC is also badass. They're all good. They don't make boy bands anymore like they used to. One Direction, it was trash when they were still big. Like,
we've just alienated all of our female audience.
I don't care. Every single boy band that's been around since like the 90s has just been horrible. Early 2000s, I guess, was a little good too, but
yeah,
they just don't do it like they used to.
Yeah. All right, I think, folks, we are going to be cutting a little short tonight, especially with that stadium thing going on, because Isaac probably has to heading over there.
Yeah, I will be heading out.
We are going to be posting the full video, the full podcast on YouTube, so if you didn't get to watch it all, please go and watch it on there. And next podcast, we might have a little surprise for you guys, so make sure you tune in for that. But that's everything we had. Hope you guys enjoyed.